which shoe do you put on first? The left shoe or the right shoe? Okay, most likely it's one or the other. Look at me, I'm a genius. Yeah, most likely it's one or the other pretty much every day. The same shoe. Every day, most likely you put the left shoe on first and then you put the right shoe on. There's a ritual, there's a routine. We have patterns and behaviors that we engage in on a daily basis that are just automatic and routine, and we do the same thing every single day, the same sequence, the same deal. Okay, so I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so you're not a freak for that, and it doesn't make you OCD either. It doesn't mean you have obsessive compulsive disorder because you put the left shoe on first, and then the right every single day. But the point is, I think it's helpful to shake things up a bit. I think it's helpful to kind of, be unsettled a little bit, to throw off your routine a little bit, to do things differently and see what it feels like. Okay, so if you've been putting your left shoe on first and then your right shoe for the last like 25 years, do an experiment. Put your right shoe on first and see what that feels like. I'm guessing that it will be an awkward feeling. Like you would think that, well, what's the big deal? Left shoe, right shoe, it shouldn't be a big deal. But it's very possible that you will have an odd sort of feeling about it. Like, is this the right thing to do? Does this make sense? Because we're so used to doing things the same way, and to a large degree we are resistant to change. But I think if you experiment in these little areas where the outcomes don't matter, I mean, it doesn't matter if you put one shoe on versus the other, but if you start to break out of old patterns and old routines and do things differently, I think you will kind of break yourself out of a certain mindset that you have, perhaps a certain worldview. Perhaps you'll discover something about your anxiety or your sense of safety or security in the world, your need to control things, your need to have things a certain way. It's a self-reflective exercise that could teach you a lot about yourself, and I think help you to be less rigid and more flexible in your thinking, because that's what happens. A lot of times we get fixated in seeing solutions and in living our lives a certain way and seeing solutions through a certain lens, and we just get so fixated and so locked into it and so rigid that then we can't see the forest from the trees. Oftentimes we can't see other solutions that might be simpler right in front of us because we're so locked in, we're so rigid. We need our minds to be flexible. We need our solutions to be flexible. So that's why it's important to break out of the routines, of the patterns, of the consistencies, and do things different now and then, to keep your mind fluid, to keep your mind flexible, to keep your mind open to all possibilities.